What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Lamont's Gym Custom Knife Show, the number 3 podcast. I I heard something very, very disturbing yesterday. Um, Listening to a conversation with the lady. I want to say she was from either the Washington D.C. area or Baltimore. I can't remember, but she deals with early childhood education, and she was saying that, and she gave numbers, and I apologize, I can't remember all these numbers, but, and I don't want to guess, but I want to say somewhere between 75 and 85% of children from first grade to 12th grade can't read. Um, she was like, post COVID numbers are down. I'm sorry, post COVID numbers of kids who can't read or proficiency is at the first grade kindergarten level. So she gave some illustrations um, of about a handful, maybe 10 students. They were given a sheet of paper to read. And these were sophomores, juniors, and seniors in high school. And they couldn't read. Now, it's just not Washington D.C. and Baltimore. It's Chicago, Detroit, etc. Now, I did learn that in Alabama, the reading and the math scores have went up. But see, listen, I'm not in education. It's hard for me to understand that, for the simple fact they don't have the same grading system that I was used to when I was in school. They don't have the same grading system as when my two oldest kids was in high school. You know, if you took a test, you know, and you aced it, you made 100. You know, or you made a 90, or you made an 80, or you made a 70 or 60. You know, in today's terms, in today's grading world, at least with my youngest daughter, you know, she gets a 4. You know, that's pretty good. And I don't know if it's 4 out of 5, 4 out of 6, 4 out of what. I don't know. I don't understand it. So I can critique these kids. I can criticize these kids and the adults and the teachers and the parents for these kids not being able to read. But when it comes to the basic grading system, I can't critique it because I don't understand it. Now, you may say, well, you know, why should that matter? Go back to 1988-89. If you're not familiar with Dallas Carter was a pretty much predominantly black high school in the Dallas area. And that particular year, they were considered one of the best high school football teams ever in history. I don't disagree with that. I have seen some awesome football teams myself, you know, but this Dallas Carter team, I think, had 18 to 19, 20 athletes with D1 scholarship offers, and that was back in the day where football was real. So these athletes had to be, you know, real to receive these offers. Well, you go back to that time, and they had a big controversy. You know, you had I want to say a principal that came into that school, and he changed the grading system. Now, not A's, B's, C's, and D's, not that way, but the way that you grade an individual. If this individual take a test and he or she makes a 50 or a 60, in my day that would have been a D or F. If you put a few things with this D or F to bring that score up, whether it was attitude, whether it was proficiency, whatever the case may be. They changed the way these students was graded to high to up the scores, to bring the GPAs up. A lot of people was, it was a big controversy. A lot of people was mad at this. Then on the other side, you still got, this is the '80s, so you still got relics from the civil rights movement, crying racism, this and that. To my knowledge, and I've seen the documentaries, I've heard the stories. Trust me, these guys play football when I play, so I want to know everything about this situation. So I done studied it up and down. But to my knowledge, I want to say that eventually, years after the fact, they actually took the state championship away from Dallas. Not sure if they awarded it to another school or not. But I know, like, throughout the end of the season, through the playoff run, because of this controversy, and I want to say it was one player that the grades were changed or the grading system affected. But throughout the end of the from the end of the season, throughout the playoffs, listen, these dudes, they didn't know if they was gonna play the next game or that was the end of the season, because it was a court battle. It had to go through the courts, went to the Texas Supreme Court. I want to say this was it was a perfect TV movie played out in real time, which is crazy to me because they still have a lot of the video from the court battles to the practices to all that. I'm like, now we did a lot in front of the camera. I don't think none of that crap exists to this day. May do it, may not. I don't know, but I do know that the reason I bring this Carter situation up is, in today's world, especially in the state of Alabama, did the changing the grading system raise the GPAs, raise the test scores? I don't know. I think that's a perfect correlation to that 88-89 situation in Texas to the state of Alabama now. I'm glad that our kids can read. I'm glad that they are better in math and science. I'm glad, because these kids are going to be in charge of things. They're going to be teachers, doctors, and lawyers when I'm in my 70s and 80s, if I make it that far. So yeah, we need these kids to be smarter. Now you go off to where they were talking about these kids in the DC and Baltimore areas and other areas that can't read. That's sad. That's real sad to me. It actually breaks my heart, because we live in a different time now. Back in 88, 89, when I was a teenager getting ready to graduate high school and all that good stuff, if you was a dynamic athlete, a generational talent, yeah, there's a chance that you could make it and go to the NFL or NBA or whatever, make generational wealth. But if you didn't have that generational talent, the chances are, you wasn't gonna, end up, wind up being too much of anything. But you did have a chance. You could be a ditch digger. You could be a pipe layer. You could be, you could smarten up a little bit, as they get older, and their brain is full of development, go back to trade school, become a plumber, an electrician. A lot of that happened. A lot of my friends became plumbers and electricians and are very successful, got their own businesses, Kind of wish I would have thought about trade school, not for a career, because I always wanted to be, either in a medical, teaching, or law enforcement. I, chose law enforcement. But, just for fixing something at home, which I can. I'm good with my hands. I'm good. I'm not a dumb individual. I'm pretty smart. I can fix an electrical problem. I can fix a plumbing problem, unless it's just too big. I don't have the tools. But trade school was a very valuable thing that I just didn't get into. My dad was a mechanic, not a car mechanic, but a machinist mechanic. and worked on big industrial machines and presses and stuff like that. But I just never cared for it, you know. But listen, that's a moot point because I done did what I did. I went to college, got degrees, and spent 20 years in law enforcement. Blah blah blah. We're talking about these kids of today, and with cell phones and on social media, their attention, in my opinion, it's not the books. Their attention is watching reels, putting up videos, kicking and screaming on videos. And listen, all that's well and good, but that shouldn't be your future. Going in front of people, speaking correctly, using correct English, putting your verbs and your nouns and everything in the proper place. Now, I struggle with that. Adverbs and all that good stuff. And then when I got into it, I got to correct my speech, my English. I want to speak professionally in front of people. All of a sudden they hit us with pronouns. Well, I know what a pronoun is. He, she, they. But, cognitive dissonance, they twisted it. Now I still know what it means, and I use it properly. I use pronouns properly. But now, if you go on Indeed or you go on LinkedIn, these people have said, my name is Joe Blow Blow. I identify as he, her, she, they, whatever, it. These kids today, how are they to learn properly when you're doing this to them? When you're twisting things around unnecessarily, so it is what it is, man. I pray for these children, pray for the teachers, the parents. In my opinion, and I'm going to say the mothers. Now, listen, I said parents, and I know you said, well, why ain't you going to include the fathers? I want you to go back from Leave It to Beaver to now. I'm going to use Ward, the father on Leave It to Beaver, my father, and myself. Now, Ward, when it came to homework, he did help out. You need help with the math, you need help with the English. Yeah. I'm gonna add another one, Andy Griffith. Which he, little Opie didn't have a mom, but if he needed help with his homework, Andy Griffith helped him with his homework till it got a little bit too tough. But my point to all that is, and I don't want to bore you. I'm not finna go on about nothing. There are times when fathers, okay, my father begged me to come to him, asked him. I just felt comfortable going to my mom. But he begged me, if you need some help, come to me. And I said the same to my kids. But I think that's the place of the mother. Because a kid's going to mess up, and she's going to be a little bit more gentle. Take her time. When the father's going to get frustrated and get mad. Now, that's the way it is. It was true on Leave It to Beaver. It was true on Andy Griffith. It was true with my father, even though I didn't go to him much. And it was true for me. So, listen, parents, mom and dad, help your kids, man. Help these kids to read. Teachers, we got a lot of woke teachers out there, y'all. And they woke people, Democrats, liberals, they're all about self. But when you got some good teachers out there, and to the good teachers, keep on teaching and get these bad teachers out of the classroom. And, for the students, if this ain't for kids, but if any students watching this, dedicate yourself to better yourself. Learn something new every day. Learn how to read, learn how to do math, learn how to do English and science and all that good stuff. Don't leave it to someone of a foreign country to come over here and get what you can earn and deserve. Just put it to you like that. But anyway, guys, I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you for taking time out to watch my stupid butt ramble. Y'all guys stay blessed. And as always, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, I'll see you guys next time.